Great.
Lovely. Right. Hi, so here we are again today talking with Dr. Lynda Shaw. Hi, Lynda.
Hello, Ceri. How are you doing?
I'm fine. How are you?
Good, good. I'm good.
And we're going to talk today about working for longer, aren't we?
Yep, indeed.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. It's on everybody's lips, isn't it? The retirement age is increased and it will increase again. And yeah, we're required to be at work longer. And I can see why, because if you think about it, there are more and more people living to their 100.
Yeah.
And if you start working in your 20s and finished in your 60s, you will have added to the financial pot for 40% of your life.
Mm.
So, the numbers just don't stack up, do they?
No, not at all.
So
No.
yeah, we've got to keep working. I can see that unless we've got a pot of gold that we can tap into, or we absolutely hate it, can live off a pension. But I have to say, for a lot of people, the thought of not retiring is horrid because they hate their job.
Mm.
So I think for people to keep working, the bottom line is let's hope that we can find things that we love to do, or indeed reinvent ourselves. So I think that's for me, the word retirement should be erased from the English dictionary.
Absolutely, yeah.
It's the worst word in the world when it comes to motivating people. And it's no coincidence that many people seem to die once they retire because they've lived their lives feeling their self-worth is about their job identity. So without that, it's taken away from them and they feel quite bereft. And in fact, I know some people who have retired, they've longed to retire, they've really got into it, and they've got a whole year of doing all those jobs that they've been meaning to do and never had the time. And then they go back to find another job and they actually come out of retirement. So, this word retire, I'd actually rather replace it with reinvent.
And in fact, that's the exact phrase I used in a radio interview myself yesterday. I was asked if I would ever see myself retiring. So no, I'll reinvent, but I would always have to do something. Not necessarily to the same level of income that I've had earlier in my career, but just as my self-worth and my reason to get up every day, I need to do something. I need to have that bit of structure and something where I feel I'm learning or aiming for something.
Absolutely, absolutely. We need a reason to get up in the morning. It could be a charity work.
Mm.
It could be an all-consuming hobby that you absolutely love. That's fine. But for a lot of people, finances are a consideration, especially as the next generation of older people come through and indeed the generation after that, because there won't be a state pension much to be had. So, there's a lot to consider. So, but again, I think we live in a wonderful country and where we have choices and we have freedom. So we can reinvent ourselves and hopefully find things that we can do to earn money that we love doing. Or indeed, never stop because you love doing what you do anyway.
Well, I guess, can we talk about how our age maybe affects the performance of certain types of roles? But I can see it's very easy to continue working and reinventing yourself if you're doing something that doesn't perhaps require a lot of physical strength. But there must be people perhaps who are nurses who have to lift patients, or people in more physically demanding roles where perhaps it's not feasible for those people to continue to
Yeah,
work
and
in
yes,
those same types of roles. And then they have to, I guess, work out how they transfer their skills into something else.
yeah. Well, the thing is to remember is that in the last century, especially at the beginning of the last century, work was a lot more physical.
Mm-hmm.
And that would definitely hold as we get older and we are less able to do those physical things. I don't know, farming, in industry type things, very physical type things. Then that is a problem. But these days, there's work is becoming less and less physical.
Mm-hmm.
Most of it sitting on our bottoms, watching a screen, or indeed being on the telephone. But I tell you something that was a very interesting study that happened. This was some time back now, and it was by an American hotel chain. And they were trying to recruit people for their call centre, the reservation centre
Yeah.
where people are ringing in to make bookings, hotel bookings.
Mm-hmm.
And they couldn't recruit enough younger people, so they had to recruit all ages.
Yeah.
So they let this go on for a while, and after about 6 months, they did a productivity analysis, and they compared the under 50-year-olds with the over 50-year-olds, and they found that the older 50 group picked up the telephone a lot less,
Mm-hmm.
and they answered the phone a lot less. But surprise, surprise, they converted more inquiries into sales. So in
Interesting.
actual, yeah. So in actual fact, they were slower, but for this type of work, it actually was better because they were building relationships up with people on the other end of the telephone because they were chatting about the weather, chatting about whatever they wanted to chat about, and the people bought. They actually picked it up. So they were. I think the estimate was that the older over 50-year-olds were 9% more successful than the under 50-year-olds over the year for making bookings. So
Mm,
you see, it does depend on the line of work, on
absolutely.
whether we are more successful or not as we get older.
I was very lucky recently. I got to meet the astronaut that took the first American female astronauts into space with him. He was on the Challenger space shuttle that took up Stanley Ride and another female astronaut. And he said, as much as gravity was a great leveler then in space, the thought between your ears was what mattered. And he seemed to think that the internet was going to be the same in terms of age. We don't need to be as physical, so the
Yeah.
internet is also a great leveller in terms of being productive in the workplace. And I think that's perhaps quite an important thing with the opportunities we have online now to remember.
Absolutely. And of course, with the internet, that means we can work from home more.
Mm.
So there's not even, and there is a downside to that, again, because when we work from home, that's actually lonely, and that feeds into the problems of isolation, which can be the underpinnings of depression, isolation, low self-worth, low self-esteem. But nevertheless, we are working from home more, and we need to compensate by making sure we have a social life outside of our work, if that is the case. But that does feed into people with disabilities,
Yeah.
who are older. They can actually contribute to society more easily because of computers, which is fantastic.
And I guess also, I mean, I started to work from home about 20 years ago, and then my social life was very much at the end of the day, I always had to book something, whether it was a fitness class or something, or going to the cinema with a friend to have that social interaction. But now, 20 years on, I can have a 5 minute break and tweet and
Yeah.
just connect with
Oh,
people. Just that 5 minutes. It's almost become like the water cooler moment at home. It's like it's my 5 minutes on Twitter or Facebook, and then go back into my work mode.
yeah, absolutely. But for me, I'm a bit naughty, I have to say, because I belong to a couple of really good groups on Facebook. It is incredibly valuable, and I spend much too much time.
Yeah, you have to set a timer, don't you?
Yeah, I know. So when I've got to write that particular article, and it might be heavy going, or I'm having to, I've got a bit fed up with it. I spend much too much time on social media, but hey, that's one of the downsides. But yeah, but in terms of people working as they get older, then I think it's something that we are all considering much more. So my core message is, if at all possible, try and find something that you love doing. Um, Otherwise, the thought of working beyond 60, beyond 65, even perhaps beyond 70, 75, and doing something you don't love is pretty hard work. Pretty hard work.
Well, I know that a lot of the women that write into Fab After 50, whether it's directly to the website or via the Facebook page, they wonder do they have the skills. And I honestly do believe, and I don't know, people may not be aware, but I've had sort of nearly 3 decades of working as a headhunter. And I do believe that everybody has some marketable skills. You just have to define what those skills are and how you package them up to a potential employer. And look at what the gaps are. Look at all the adverts on the job boards. Go out and network with people. Have some cards with you, even if you've just got your name and your email address and mobile phone number on. Hand them out to people. You never know what skill you have could be of value to somebody you might connect with.
Absolutely right. Totally right. And as you say, it doesn't have to be physical. I mean, I know one chap who cleans cars. He's in his 80s and he cleans the cars because he loves working in this firm with all the people. He loves the social interaction. He likes the simplicity of the work. Just likes the whole thing. No risk. He goes home and the job's done. Doesn't have to take work home with him. It doesn't matter as long as it fits with the person
Yeah.
and it's of value to the recipients.
Mhm.
That that's the fit, isn't it?
Absolutely, but I think also that's where technology comes in as well. People can't fear technology. I mean, I had a situation where I've had people who haven't wanted to embrace new technology, but that makes their skills redundant. If they leave that company, a new employer is not likely to be as tolerant. So I would say if you're in paid employment and you get offered courses or workshops, go on every single one that's available to you.
Absolutely right.
No,
And the thing
don't
is
turn
also,
down the opportunity. Show that you're willing to learn more, and you want to expand your skill base and your knowledge base.
I think companies are getting better at seeing this because they're aware of their own mortality and their own age. We're all getting older. They're probably thinking of themselves as well. Bosses are thinking of themselves and their own situation. But it is vital to keep going. The thing is, what older people tend to do is they tend to stay in a job a bit too long. And sometimes that job actually it could be part of the industry where it's becoming out of date.
Yes.
So, a lot of older people find that their skills seem to be out of date. So you're absolutely right about those training courses. Just keep going on them. And the other thing that is hard for people as they get older is that their interview skills may have diminished or indeed become out of date because there's new skills that HR are using, there's new psychometric testing. And some of those tests really do feed into just younger people. And older people, it's not a good reflection on the skills of that older person, some of those tests. So I think that has to be thought about a lot in HR, in exactly, are we being fair with the tests that we're giving to all age groups?
I
Or
actually had that situation with one of my former clients, in fact, where they wanted everybody, and I had people with tremendous, in fact, it was a sales related job. They had incredible track records, and they all failed the test. And we said, well, how could all these people, they're the top people in your competitors' organisation, they shouldn't all be, not if one failed, but not for everybody to fail, in inverted commas, this test. I said, can I ask you to do something? Because there's a new test they were actually implementing. So could you please ask your 3 top performers currently in the organisation to take the same test? So we can compare the results of the people you have in your organisation with the people you're trying to attract in, which they did. Interestingly, the 3 people who are most successful and who've been with them for a number of years all failed that same test as well. So back to the drawing board, and we brought the original candidates back in, and they were assessed on a different basis. So I think it is, you said, it's important to assess people correctly and understand the value of the test.
I think that's right. And I think HR has to be very, psychometric testing or any kind of testing like that is an objective way of finding out if people fit with the company or indeed the job spec. I get that. But we can't just rely on those things when it comes to interviewing people. And we need to actually stick our neck out there, and put our head above the pulpit and just say, do you know what? Well, I'm going to be a bit subjective with assessing this person because these tests are not fitting what we need to do here. So HR departments, they do a really good job, but it's better that we don't, if you like, rely on those tools only. We need to actually realise that they do a lot of people a disservice. Yeah.
And just to add something there, I have a whole separate set of videos on preparing for interviews, understanding what your marketable skills are. They're all going to come online fairly soon, so that people can pick on those that they can prepare better in their own job search and understand what they can be doing and what's marketable. But the other thing I was going to say as well is one huge advantage, you mentioned about the people in the call centre who are over 50, one of the huge advantages that older people have is they have the experience of interacting with all the generations. And for any workforce or any workplace, that is invaluable, and that is definitely a skill that you have that should not be underestimated.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, a lot of older people have brought up children, grandchildren, stroppy teenagers, all those things, and they sort of get it. They get it. They understand how to communicate with people. You can argue that some older people are grumpy and not and a little bit fixed in their ways. But again, if we are aware of our shortcomings and we want to contribute, then we must be honest and not be grumpy and not be inflexible and to embrace change. And the way we can do that is for companies to actually say, as you say, help with training courses, because then that person is learning and you can't be inflexible. You have to move with the flow and make mistakes, relearn. It's refreshing. It's wonderfully refreshing.
One thing I would say as well, though, if you're in an organisation that does not have the budget to fund training, invest in some training for yourself. In fact, there's an awful lot out there that's free at the moment. You can go on webinars which are free. You can go look at a topic on YouTube and see what free YouTube video tutorials there are. Yeah. Not having a budget paid for, not having your training funded by an employer is no excuse not to make yourself more marketable and maintain your current skill set. No, I would say look at the job boards and see what skills people are asking for. If you had to find a job tomorrow, would you be able to get one? If not, start planning now. Don't wait until you have to make a change. Make sure you
Absolutely.
are, you are prepared in advance and stay up to date.
Yeah, absolutely right. You're spot on when it comes to the free courses out there.
Mm.
We are saturated with information.
Yeah.
We just need to push a button and we can find out anything we wish.
Mm.
And it's a majority of it is free, as you say. So there is actually no excuse for not finding out. Of course, some of the information you're never sure what it's based on, whether how much research is behind it. But it doesn't matter because when it comes to training on new things, it's like a girlfriend of mine. She's a novelist. And what she does is if she's starting a new novel, she goes to the children's library
Mm-hmm.
and she reads up on that particular point in history or whatever. So she starts with the simple bits of information. If
Right.
she chooses and needs to know more, then she'll get more complicated. And
Mm.
that's what we can do. If we want to learn something new, and we can start with something simple. And if we think, actually, I really want to know a bit more here, then you go and find courses that have got some valuable foundations to them. So, it's great. We are very lucky.
Mm. We are. Thank you.
Yeah.